Hello everyone, welcome to Talk Wrestling here on the NoDQ.com YouTube channel as well as NoDQ.com's website, which is NoDQ.com, but you already knew that if you've been watching me the last, my god, 13 years. Isn't that scary? I've been on your audio and visual screens for this long. Isn't that awful? Anyway, today we get our questions from Instagram and Facebook, so let's just go right to it. First one is from Instagram. It comes from BatSnake95. What is your favorite pay-per-view from WCW, ECW, and TNA? Let's see. From WCW, my favorite pay-per-view is probably either Bash at the Beach 94 or Starrcade 97. And I know that's cliche. Bash at the Beach 94 was the first WCW pay-per-view I ever actually tried to order. The cable wasn't working that day, so I didn't get to see Hogan Flair live as it happened. I got to see it on VHS later. But that was a decent... I mean, it was still a bad brand. Then WCW hadn't really hit its stride just yet. But it was a decently solid card from top to bottom. I recently watched it on the network, and it was a pretty solid card, top to bottom. Hogan Flair was Hogan Flair, but you had... Regal was still there. Austin was still there. I believe Sting either wrestled or appeared on the show. He was still there. It was a good show. And, of course, Starrcade 97, you had the drama of the NWO versus WCW battle really coming to a head with Hogan and Sting, with Bischoff and Zbyszko, and Bret Hart making his first pay-per-view appearance for WCW. And all these things just keep happening on. You had the complete dichotomy of the NWO versus WCW. Really was in its upswing, even though it was still starting to simmer more than it was to spark. It was still doing very, very well. ECW. Honestly, the first one, Brotherly Legal, 1997, April 13th. Solid show, great matches, great wrestling, great drama with the triple threat for the number one contender spot, and then Terry Funk defeating Raven for the world title later. Right after that, actually. The drama of RVD cutting his promo saying, "I'm better than this, I'll be on Monday night tomorrow night." The Dudleys and Eliminators for the tag team titles. You had Shane Douglas involved. It just all around a great outing for ECW's first time in the big leagues. And it only set the tone for greater things to come. But it was arguably my favorite. The other one was really good was Living Dangerously in 1999, which featured one of the many RVD Jerry Lynn matches, as well as another great show overall. There really wasn't a bad per se ECW pay-per-view. But the first one was, I think, my favorite personally. TNA, easy answer. Turning Point 2004. Why? We were there. There have been greater pay-per-views from TNA since, obviously. Unbreakable. I mentioned Unbreakable on a recent show with Daniels, Joe, and AJ. But Turning Point 2004 was the first time I had seen professional wrestling outside of California, and Aaron and Mike and I flew all the way to Orlando for the sole purpose of seeing a TNA pay-per-view in person as it happened and getting interviews with all the guys on our show, which turned out to be such a big success. We got so much material that weekend, it was just unbelievable. And it cost Aaron a lot of money, and I still feel bad about that to this day. But, I had so much fun, and it was a great experience to be in Orlando for a pay-per-view, and I would really like to go back sometime if it's all possible. Alright, Cody Cobra 52. Do you see Double J going into the WWE Hall of Fame? Now, Cody, that's kind of a hard question, and the reason I say that is because, much like Sting and Kurt Angle and the Dudley Boys, Jeff Jarrett's now a TNA Hall of Famer, and I don't know if WWE wants to exactly play second fiddle, shall we say, to the TNA Hall of Fame. I'm sure Sting will get his induction because he's now part of WWE and was a huge part of WCW, which is now under the WWE video library. I'm sure Kurt Angle will get his. He was a great contributor to WWE before he went to TNA almost 10 years ago now. And the Dudleys were a great contributor to ECW and the WWE before they went to TNA. But Jeff Jarrett was good. He was very good. But I don't think he was ever great, like ain't I great, right? I don't know if he was ever great enough to warrant a WWE Hall of Fame induction. If you go back and look at his stuff in Tennessee and Memphis, maybe. Will he be there? I personally want to say yes. But I'm pessimistic about it. I don't know. Matt Willett. Hello, Jeff. Thanks for pronouncing my name correctly. You're welcome, Matt. You forget, I'm a wrestling fan. I remember Carl Willett of the Quebecers. And Pierre Willett, as he's also called. So I remember. Don't worry. Question. Did you watch Over the Edge 1999 live, and did you think Owen's death was a work until Raw the next night, or any time did you think the accident was a work? Also share any thoughts you had that day during the event and the subsequent Raw. Didn't watch the show. Didn't have a chance. I believe that was one of the periods in my high school life where I was grounded from the business because my grades sucked. So I wasn't watching that night. I did watch the news and heard the news. And never once did I think it was a work. Because on the news. So I knew it was real. Overwhelming disbelief was my initial thoughts, my initial feelings. Could not believe that such a stupid thing had to happen to somebody that was really so awesome in the ring and was a great character. Grossly unfair to his family and to the wrestling fans and everybody that knew him and admired him and respected him, that he was taken from us the way he was taken from us. And I say us like I was part of his family, but you know what I mean. During Raw, I cried. I still cry when I watch that Raw. I cried during the Eddie Guerrero Raw and SmackDown. I do. Death in the business is never easy. And when you get close to people, when you have them on your show, like I did with Crash Holly, or with Mike Awesome, or with Jerry Toot, or with Randy Savage, it makes it very hard to process. I never had Owen Hart, I never had Eddie Guerrero, I never had Chris Benoit, never had Kurt Hennig, never had Miss Elizabeth. But they were all very hard too. But Owens was really bad for me. It was very hard to watch, very hard to process. Still is. Almost. It's been 16 years. Jeez. Bazinga 270. Out of the roster they have now, what NXT superstar do you think will make their WrestleMania debut first? I'd assume Finn Balor. If we look at it from right now today, based on impact they've made in the WWE main roster the last couple years, I'm going to say, like you said, either Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, or Kevin Owens. Or, I'll go the complete opposite direction and say the girls. Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky, and maybe even Bayley. But you know what? That's the beautiful thing about NXT, and why I'm such a huge fan of NXT. Because it really could be anybody. It really could be any of those people that they have down there now that have appeared on Raw or SmackDown already, or even the ones that haven't yet, that could be called up and make a huge immediate impact and soar on to Dallas in April and make a huge piece of history for the WWE main roster. Think about that. Isn't that awesome? That's great. This is from James the McMurray. When you were watching the Monday Night Wars, who did you actually want to win the war? WWE or WCW? Put me on the spot, James. It really depends when you would ask me that question, because early on, when the NWO was cooking, I wanted WCW to win the war. I wanted there to be a WCW product. I wanted there to be an NWO product. And I didn't care, honestly, if the WWE survived. It didn't bother me if they were going to go away. In fact, when they had the storyline between the Alliance and the WWF in 2001, when the invasion took place, I was rooting for the invasion. I was rooting for the Alliance. I really was. But toward the end, once the finger poke of doom and all that garbage started going on toward the middle part of 1990, the early part of 1999, and onward, I was kind of rooting for the WWF. So, mostly during the whole war, I was going for WCW, NWO. There was a time where I wanted the WWE to win too, so it was really both. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Talk Wrestling. Thank you very much for contributing, all of you. We will see you guys next time for more.